Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 24. text number 18. 19. Translation, my dear king. Oh, actually, Jīvera Prabhu, would you like to read the Sanskrit, or should we just? All right.
Noevaitat sakshatkaro bhumidanasya yatan bhagavat yashesha jivanikayanam jivabhutatma bhute paramatmani vasudeve tirtatame patra upapanne padaya shadhaya padamadata samahita manasa sambhatipadditasya sakshad apavarga dvarasya yad bilanilaya ishwariyam.
I'll just skip over the word for words, and we'll read Srila Prabhupada's translation and purport. My dear king, Bali Maharaj donated all his possessions to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vamanadev. But one should certainly not conclude that he achieved this great worldly opulence in Bilasvarga as a result of his charitable disposition. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a source of life for all living entities, lives within everyone as the friendly supersoul, and under his direction a living entity enjoys or suffers in the material world. Greatly appreciating the transcendental qualities of the Lord, Bali Maharaj offered everything at his lotus feet. His purpose, however, was not to gain anything material, but to become a pure devotee. For a pure devotee, the door of liberation is automatically opened. One should not think that Bali Maharaj was given so much material opulence merely because of his charity. When one becomes a pure devotee in love, he may also be blessed with a good material position by the will of the Supreme Lord. However, one should not mistakenly think that the material opulence of a devotee is the result of his devotional service. The real result of devotional service is the awakening of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which continues under all circumstances. I'll read the next verse as well. If one who is embarrassed by hunger or who falls down or stumbles chants the holy name of the Lord even once, willingly or unwillingly, he is immediately freed from the reactions of his past deeds. Karmīs, entangled in material activities, face many difficulties in the practice of mystic yoga and other endeavors to achieve that same freedom. Purport. It is not a fact that one has to offer his material possessions to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be liberated before he can engage in devotional service. A devotee automatically attains liberation without separate endeavors. Bali Maharaj did not get back all his material possessions merely because of his charity to the Lord. One who becomes a devotee, free from material desires and motives, regards all opportunities, both material and spiritual, as benedictions from the Lord. And in this way, his service to the Lord is never hampered. Bhakti, material enjoyment, and mukti, liberation, are only byproducts of devotional service. A devotee need not work separately to attain mukti. Srila Bilvamangala Thakur said, Mukti Svayam Mukulitanjali Sevate Sman. A pure devotee of the Lord does not have to endeavor separately for mukti because mukti is always ready to serve him. In this regard, Chaitanya-charitamrita describes Haridasa Thakur's confirmation of the effect of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Keha bale nāma haite haya pāpa-kṣaya. Keha bale nāma haite jīvera mokṣa. Some say that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is freed from all the reactions of sinful life. Others say that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one attains liberation from material bondage. Haridasa Thakura namera edui palanai namer pale Krishna pade prema upajai. Haridasa Thakura, however, says that the desired result of chanting the holy name of the Lord is not that one is liberated from material bondage or freed from the reactions of sinful life. The actual result of chanting the holy name of the Lord is that one awakens his dormant Krishna consciousness, his loving service to the Lord. I'll just skip the Bengali. Haridasa Thakura said that liberation and freedom from the reactions of sinful activities are only byproducts of chanting the holy name of the Lord. If one chants the holy name of the Lord purely, he attains the platform of loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, Haridasa Thakura gives an example concerning comparing the power of the holy name to sunshine. He placed a verse before all the learned scholars present, but the learned scholars asked him to state the purport of the verse. Haridasa Thakura said, that as the sun begins to rise, it dissipates the darkness of night even before the sun is visible. Before the sunrise even takes place, the light of dawn destroys the fear of the dangers of night, such as disturbances by thieves, ghosts, and rakshasas. And when the sunshine actually appears, one engages in his duties. Similarly, even before one's chanting of the holy name is pure, one is freed from all sinful reactions, and when he chants purely, he becomes a lover of Krishna. A devotee never accepts mukti, even if Krishna offers it. Mukti, freedom from all sinful reactions, is obtained even by nāma, or a glimpse of the light of the holy name before its full light is perfectly visible. The nāma stage is between that of nāma, or the chanting of the holy name with offenses, and pure chanting. There are 3 stages in the chanting of the holy name. In the first stage, one commits 10 kinds of offenses while chanting. In the next stage, nāma, the offenses have almost stopped, and one is coming to the platform of pure chanting. In the third stage, when one chants the Hare Krishna mantra without offenses, his dormant love for Krishna immediately awakens. This is perfection. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Murupurim Mathurim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just pull notes here. So there's 2 verses which both brought up good things. I'll just briefly touch on the first one. So the first verse, text 19, is touching on Bali Maharaj and this pastime with Vamanadev, where he gave the entire universe, you could say inadvertently, in charity to Vamanadev. And Vamanadev asked him for 3 steps of land, and then with those 3 steps, of course, Vamanadev being Lord Vishnu, 2 of the steps covered the entire universe, and so then he still had 1 more step. And so Bali Maharaj said, well, you can put it on my head. So he did. And so Bali Maharaj, he's the personification of Atma Nivedanam. He surrendered everything to Krishna, everything to Vishnu, to Vamanadev. But the point is that, okay, we may surrender so much to Krishna, we may give so many of our possessions, we may give, we may even give our body to Krishna in the service of Krishna. We may give, so much money, so many possessions, this and that. But devotional service isn't a business transaction. It's not just that I'll give you money and then you give me some result. We can't buy our way back to Godhead. We can't give charity in such a way that we're qualified to go back to Godhead. Because Krishna, he's bhava-grahi. What Krishna wants is the bhav. He wants love. So we can give so much charity for the sake of going back to Godhead or for the sake of achieving some position. But if we don't actually have bhav, if we don't actually have love for Krishna, if we're not doing this because, Krishna, I love you, then there's no hope of achieving the desired result of going back home, back to Godhead. It'll just remain a pious activity, sukriti. Bhakti unmukti sukriti, which means that it may give rise to bhakti later, but it's not actual bhakti. Bhakti means anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavratam anukulyena krishna anushrilanam bhakti rutama. Real bhakti is free from any other desire but that which is favorable for Krishna's pleasure. So if we give charity in that way, or if we do our, whatever services we have to do in that way, thinking that I'm just doing this because I want to please Krishna. Whatever I get out of it, fine. Whatever Krishna decides to give me, fine. But the real reason I'm doing it is because I want to make Krishna happy. That's the mood of a devotee. So, in Kali Yuga, one of the better ways to make Krishna happy is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. And there's one verse that was cited in the purport, the second purport by Haridasa Thakura. Yeah. Namer pale Krishna pade prema upajoy. That the fruit of chanting the holy name is Krishna prema. If one wants to achieve love for Krishna, then there's this verse, very famous verse, Harer nāma, Harer nāma, Harer nāma iva kevalam, kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyata. That the best way to do it is by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Harer Nam. And so this holy name is extremely powerful. It's explained in many different places, the power of the holy name. It's explained in the Bhagavatam in various places. But there's one verse, Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purno Shuddho Nitya Mukto Bhinatvam Nama Namino, which is a really nice verse because it kind of goes through everything. It fully describes the holy name. So the first thing, and this is something that Haridasa Thakura was speaking about in this purport, that the holy name is Chintamani, meaning it's like a wish-fulfilling gem. So whatever one desires to get out of the holy name, they can get it. The holy name is Krishna. So Krishna can fulfill that desire. So like Haridasa Thakura is saying, some say that by chanting the holy name, one is free from all the reactions of sinful life. It's true. Just by chanting one holy name, one can be purified of the reactions of more sins than one can even commit. So it's true. Others say that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one attains liberation from material bondage. This is certainly true. That one can achieve liberation from material bondage. But then the next verse says, the desired result of chanting the holy name of the Lord, the real result of chanting the holy name of the Lord, is Krishna prema, love for Krishna. This is the real thing. So because the holy name is identical with Krishna, Bhinatvam Nama Namino means the named and the name are non-different. They're the same. So we say sometimes that Krishna comes, or that Krishna is present inside his name. Or that Krishna, sometimes it's phrased that Krishna invests his name with his potency. But that's not necessarily true because Krishna is his name. It's not that there's like this separate thing, Krishna and his name, and then Krishna invests it or something like that. Krishna is his name. Krishna has four aspects, Nāma, Guna, Rupa, and Lila. Name, form, qualities, and activities. Any object actually has it, even in the material world. In the material world, any real object has name, form, qualities, and pastimes, activities. That's true of any object. But on the material platform, these things are separate from their object. For example, Prabhupada cites the example of Coca-Cola. You can't chant Coca-Cola and be satisfied. Or actually, I guess a better example that Srila Prabhupada gives is if you're very thirsty, just by chanting water, 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 you don't feel satisfied. You don't feel your thirst isn't satisfied. Because water and the name water are two separate things on the material platform. But on the spiritual platform, Nāma, Guna, Rupa, and Lila, these things are all exactly the same as their object. Krishna, his name, form, qualities, and activities, they're actually him. They're fully present in, he is fully present in them. He is them. So when we chant the holy name of the Lord, we're actually associating with Krishna. When we're hearing about Krishna's pastimes, we're hearing about Krishna's Lila, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's activities. Krishna's actually there. Not that we have to, separately, do some other thing in order for Krishna to appear. That Krishna, just by the discussion, just by the sound vibration, Krishna's actually there. And just by chanting the holy name, this is the best way to perceive Krishna in this age. The most readily available, the easiest way to perceive Krishna in this age is by chanting the holy name. And Haridasa Thakura further cites this verse, comparing the holy name to the sun. The verse goes, Amhak sangharakilam sakardadaya deva sakala lokasya taranira timira jaladim jayati jagan mangala harer nāma. That just as, Jīvera Prabhu taught me this one, that that just as, when it's night, when it's very dark, I mean, of course, now we have lights and everything like that, so night's not so scary, depending on where you live. But, back in the day, 500 years ago, even more recently than that, but anyway, if there's a new moon, meaning if there's no moon in the sky, it's very dark. There's nothing else to light, the world. So it's very dark, and it's very scary. You can't really see anything. You can't do much of anything. But when the sun rises, even before the sun globe is actually visible, there's this aruna, this redness, that comes before the sun, which lights up the world to an extent. And so just from this light, even before the sun is actually visible, one can see what's going on. And whatever fear or whatever inability to do things that's come about by the darkness of the new moon, it's immediately dispelled once the first signs of sunrise appear. And then gradually it's only a matter of time until the actual sun is there, fully lighting up the world. So in a similar way, even though one may not be pure in their chanting of the holy name, a devotee takes solace, understanding that it's only a matter of time. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I have the process. I know the goal of the process. I know what's coming if I continue in this process. So therefore there's no fear, even on the material, or even for a devotee who's still somewhat materially contaminated. Still there's no fear, because this light of the holy name is dispelling their ignorance and giving them hope, giving them something to look forward to. So it's stated in Harinam Chintamani, also spoken largely by Haridasa Thakura, that although the holy name is absolute, although it's Krishna himself, people obtain different results by chanting it. Not because they're chanting a different holy name or something like that, but because they take it up in different ways, with different consciousness. And then he gives, there's a whole chapter of how to receive the holy name. What's the process for receiving the holy name? And the concept is spoken upon that the holy name, receiving the holy name, is not a faculty of the ears. It's not just by hearing the holy name. In one sense, yes, hearing the holy name is purifying. But to really, truly receive the real thing, it's a faculty of the consciousness. One has to have proper consciousness in order to truly receive the holy name. So we may be hearing the holy name to an extent, but if we're doing something else, or if we're hearing something else at the same time, or if we're just not really feeling like it, we're just not really into it, then we won't get the proper benefit of chanting the holy name. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the formula how to properly purify our consciousness, or what the proper consciousness is for receiving the holy name. And he says, Trinadapi suni chena turor apisa hirshana manina manadena kirtaniya sadahri. That if one wants to truly receive the holy name, that he has to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, thinking all respect belongs to others, and none belongs to oneself, expecting none for oneself. And in this way, then one can constantly chant the holy name properly and receive the full benefit of Krishna Prema. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura comments on this verse that the real import of being more humble than a blade of grass is to think oneself as a speck of dust on the lotus feet of the Guru. And so what do we receive from the Guru? What's the point of submitting to the Guru? How does this affect, or how does this impact our chanting of the holy name? This is also touched upon by Haridasa Thakura in Harinam Chintamani, which was revealed to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that without realized sambandha gyan, one can't have enthusiasm or focus or determination for abhideya. I guess you could say without sambandha and prayojana, without both knowledge of the goal and knowledge of our current situation, one can't have proper determination, proper focus for abhideya. So what the Guru gives us, he gives us sambandha gyan. He gives us information that, okay, I'm actually an eternal spirit soul, and I'm a servant of Krishna. This is my position, and I'm in this material world because I've turned away from Krishna. And from time immemorial, I've been searching for happiness in this material world, chewing the chewed, frustrated over and over and over again. So how to get out of it? Hare nāma, Hare nāma, Hare nāma eva kevalam. There's no other way but chanting the holy name. This is how we get out of material existence. So without this knowledge, without knowledge of where we're at and where we're supposed to be going, then our anarthas will overwhelm us. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is it Prameya Ratnavali? Anyway, whatever it is. He outlines 4 different kinds of anarthas. Asat trishna, meaning thirst for that which is temporary, for material things. Hridaya daurbalya, which is weakness of heart, which is manifested in different ways. He gives the example of enviousness, seeing envy, or feeling envy on seeing others make progress, and other similar things like that. Also just, not being able to follow proper standards, things like that. Standards of devotional service. Aparad is another one. This is the third one. Which includes seva aparad, which includes nāma aparad, which includes the worst of all, Vaishnava aparad. And then also philosophical error, or vibhrama, tattva vibhrama. Meaning we have some weird idea. Like there's this idea, also another term given in Harinam Chintamani, pratibimba nāma bhās, which means that we're chanting nāma bhās, which means we know that we should be chanting, chanting is a good thing, but we have some weird error, like we think that by chanting the holy name of Krishna, that we're merged into Krishna or something like that. Some weird idea like that. So, if one doesn't have proper sambandha gyan, if one thinks that this body is me, and that the constituents of this body, the things in relation to this body, are mine, and they're for my enjoyment, then these anarthas will overwhelm us. What hope do we have of overcoming thirst for material things if we think that we're this material body? There's no hope of overcoming that. So, by serving the instructions of the spiritual master, by serving the form of the spiritual master, by serving the Vaishnavas, then we'll be able to realize ourselves, we'll be able to give up this idea that I am this body and the things in relation to this body are mine. And we'll actually be able to be on a solid platform of devotional service to Krishna. And from this, our minds will be peaceful enough that we'll be able to properly chant the holy name of Krishna. With proper knowledge, with proper understanding, with proper determination. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. I spoke on this verse last night. With this vyavasayatmika buddhi, with focused, proper intelligence to attain the goal of Krishna prema. But if we don't have proper knowledge, if we don't have proper attitude, then we won't have determination for this goal and we'll just fall off the path completely. And the holy name being Chintamani, whatever we want, we can get out of it. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yayatam mam prapadyante, that however you surrender to me, or however the living entities surrender to me, in that way I reciprocate with them. So in the same way you could say, yayatam nam prapadyante. However you surrender to the holy name, that result you'll get. So if you want to stay on the platform of Nāma bhās, if you want to stay on the platform of Nāma parād, you can stay on the platform of Nāma parād, Nāma bhās, however long you want. If you don't want to focus on the holy name, if you don't want to really hear it and absorb it into your mind, there's facility for that. You can stay in Namabhas, you can stay in Namaparad as long as you'd like. Srila Prabhupada says, you can become fully Krishna conscious in a moment if you're ready to. But even on the platform of Namabhas, still there's so many benefits. One can even attain Vaikuntha on the platform of Namabhas. You won't be able to attain Goloka, but even you can attain Vaikuntha. You can go back home, back to Godhead, in one sense, chanting Namabhas. But the real thing that can be attained by chanting the holy name is Vraj Prem, is full-on Krishna Prema for Krishna in Vrindavan, as the Vrajvasis have. I'm not sure exactly where this is, but I've heard this, I've read it in Prabhupada's books before. But it's the idea that the incarnation for this age is actually Gauranga Narayan. This is the actual incarnation for this age. But as we hear in the Chaitanya-charitamrita, the Adi Lila, actually this is an Adi Lila, Chaitanya-charitamrita. As we hear in the Chaitanya-charitamrita, Adi Lila, there's confidential reasons for Mahaprabhu's appearance in this age. That he wanted to taste the love of Srimati Radharani that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna. And so he comes with the complexion of Srimati Radharani, Krishna himself fully. And he gives Prema Nam Sankirtan. This Nam Sankirtan that can give Krishna Prema. Previously, by chanting the holy name, the benefit that one can get is only up to Vaikuntha. But in this particular Kali Yuga, in this particular universe, this particular incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can achieve Prema Nam Sankirtan, the highest benefit of going back home, back to Goloka Vrindavan to serve Krishna in Vrindavan. So it's inconceivable, actually, our good fortune in this particular Kali Yuga, that Krishna has come himself to give love for himself as he is. This highest goal that not even the demigods can understand, not even the most learned scholars, sages can understand. Completely inconceivable mercy that we've been given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and by Srila Prabhupada. And so what do we do with this information? We follow in the footsteps of Haridasa Thakura and surrender to the holy name. The holy name is Chaitanya Vigraha. It's a conscious personality. It's not that it's just, like I said, like it's just like some label that we have for God. It's actually a conscious personality. It's Krishna himself. And so we can surrender to it like Haridasa Thakura. Haridasa Thakura chanted 192 rounds every single day. It took him 16 hours, Srila Prabhupada said. Chanting 5 minutes a round, that's a lot. If you chant 5-minute rounds, that's really fast to chant, first of all. But he was fully absorbed. He was chanting Shuddhanam 192 rounds every day. So you can only imagine. Of course, he was an incarnation of Brahma. But you can only imagine how potent his chanting was. And another way to surrender to the holy name, which was given in our disciplic succession, is Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna Kora Krishna Shiksha, which also Haridasa Thakura engaged in, as we saw in this as we see in the pastime of Jagai and Madai. Suresh likes Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai, they were two very, born in Brahmana families, but they were very fallen. They became very fallen. And it said that they even studied all of the Vedic literatures just to, understand all of the different possible sinful activities so that they can engage in them. So they were very sinful people. They were rapists, murderers, liars, cheaters, drunkards, all of these different things. But on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridasa Thakura and Lord Nityananda went to them and said, Bolo Krishna, Bhajo Krishna, Kora Krishna Shiksha. Please chant Sri Krishna's name, follow his instructions, and worship him. And of course we know this whole pastime unfolds that Madai tries to kill Lord Nityananda, gets very angry at him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes with the Sudarshan Chakra. Lord Nityananda pleads with him. And then they both become pure devotees, chanting the holy name of Krishna. Their samadhis are there in Vrindavan. So this is part of surrender. Part of surrender to the holy name is to give it out to everybody else. Not just to keep it for oneself, but to preach the glories of the holy name to everybody that we meet. And so this is what we do when we go out on book distribution, is that we're giving people an opportunity to chant Krishna's holy name. We're giving them an opportunity just by giving somebody Srila Prabhupada's books, just by showing them the cover, or just by them, even if they just walk by us and see the books, they're getting an opportunity. Their spiritual life has begun, and they're getting the opportunity to achieve the highest goal of going back home, back to Godhead, and serving Krishna in Vrindavan, this inconceivable land of Vrindavan, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead subordinates himself to his devotees. So the holy name should not be taken cheaply. It should not be taken as just another part of our sadhana. It should be taken that this is our main sadhana, that actually everything in our spiritual life rests on our chanting of the holy name of Krishna. And so in order to receive it properly, we have to have proper consciousness that I'm a servant of Krishna, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. And we have to always be preparing ourselves for chanting the holy name. It's not just that our chanting improves only when we're actually chanting, but actually this attitude, this consciousness should be cultivated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. At all times, we should be trying to cultivate this consciousness, and in this way, always preparing ourselves for chanting the holy name of Krishna, our intimate meeting with Radha and Krishna. So we shouldn't take the chanting of the holy name as something cheap, and we shouldn't just keep it for ourselves. We should distribute it to everybody. Give everybody a chance. This was Srila Prabhupada's mood. This was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood. And it should be our mood as well. So I'll stop there and we can have questions, comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I just want to let you know there are 2 questions pending in the Zoom. One from Justin Prabhu, one from Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Okay. Anything in-house? Yes. Dmitri.
So you mentioned that Krishna rewards everybody according to surrender. So if I continue endeavoring to chant the holy name as pure as I can in my conditioned stage, then eventually it doesn't mean that eventually Krishna will fulfill that desire and I will be able to chant it purely.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is just to try.
Yeah, I mean that's all we can do. Like it said, like in the first verse, where is it? One should not mistakenly think that the material opulence of the devotee is a result of his devotional service. That can mean 2 different things. But one thing that it means is that just by our own endeavor, we can't go back to Godhead. We don't have the qualification for that. Krishna's not obliged to let us in just because we do something for him. But Krishna consciousness is a descending process, that we show Krishna our desire when we try to cultivate our desire by engaging in Krishna conscious activities, and then eventually, with time and sufficient purification, Krishna gives us mercy. The Guru gives us Krishna's mercy through him. And in that way, that's the actual active principle. The active principle in us going back to Godhead is Krishna's mercy, not necessarily our own endeavor. Our own endeavor may show Krishna that we have this desire. And actually, if we do have the desire, then we will endeavor. We will engage in devotional service. But just by our desire alone, or just by our endeavor alone, we can't go back to Godhead. It's based on Krishna's mercy. Without Krishna's mercy, we can't do it.
You also mentioned that the holy name is like a personality. Is it Chaitanya Vigraha, you said?
Vigraha? Chaitanya Vigraha means it's a conscious personality.
Yeah.
So it's Krishna.
How can we pursue that? For instance, if we look at the altar, we can see Krishna, but how can we perceive in the moment of chanting? Is that through the sound?
The sound, you hear, the sound vibration. It's Krishna's form and sound. So by focusing wholly and solely on the sound vibration, not that we have to think about anything else, not that, like Prabhupada was asked by a devotee, should we think of Krishna's pastimes when we're chanting? Prabhupada said, no, just focus on the chanting. Yeah. Because if you focus on the chanting, from kirtanam, smaranam automatically develops.
Yeah.
That's why Srila Prabhupada didn't really, emphasize so much, that we have to delve so deeply into higher topics, or that we have to, separately endeavor for these things. Because just by chanting, and this was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mood too, the reason he didn't emphasize Raganuga Bhakti as our, like Raganuga sadhana as our main sadhana, is because just by chanting the holy name of Krishna, these things naturally develop. And so this is the mood of our parampara, is that everything that we need in Krishna consciousness, or everything that we could possibly want in Krishna consciousness, could be, can be, will be obtained by the chanting of the holy name. But in the meantime, there's a lot of work to do. It means preaching. So we focus intensely on our chanting of the holy name, and we go out and we preach it to everybody else. And then, if Srila Prabhupada so desires to give us the mercy of, obtaining knowledge of our eternal spiritual form, knowledge of our service in the spiritual world, then of course we'll gladly take it. But like I said, in the meantime, there's a lot of work to do. That's the mood of our parampara.
Jai, thank you.
Jīvera Prabhu.
Thank you. Well, this is from a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Shivananda Prabhu in December 1968. And apparently Shivananda, Prabhupada says in the letter, regarding your first question, is it offensive to think of Krishna's pastimes while chanting? Prabhupada answers, I think you should know that it is not offensive, but rather it is required. I'm just relaying it. I just looked it up. I'm not going to try to comment on it.
Yeah, I guess how I would see that in light of that other instruction. And anyway, maybe I'm wrong. Devotees can correct me, surely. But I guess I'm thinking that he's saying, okay, yeah, it's required in the sense that when you're a pure devotee, or when your chanting is actually proper, you'll naturally remember these things. And then whenever you chant, it's not that you'll be thinking of nothing. That whenever you chant, actually, you'll remember these pastimes. I guess that's how I'm seeing it.
I think you might be right, because the next sentence he says something interesting. This is the next sentence. One must try for the point when he simply hears Krishna, and immediately all of Krishna, his pastime, his form, his qualities, are in his thoughts. So that maybe be, yeah.
Yeah, because Prabhupada didn't say it was offensive. He just said focus on the chanting. Because sometimes, in the conditioned stage, if we're thinking of Krishna's, trying to think of Krishna's pastimes while we're chanting, oftentimes we're just trying to remember details of the pastimes, and then we lose our focus on the chanting. I guess that's how I'm thinking about it. And then, so Srila Prabhupada says, yeah, that's great if you think of Krishna's pastimes while you're chanting, but don't, maybe subvert is the right word, don't subvert your chanting for the sake of, trying to remember pastimes. Maybe that's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, Prabhupada said we shouldn't artificially try to, force your mind to think of pastimes, but automatically it comes when one chants purely, then the form, name, qualities, pastimes manifest.
Ananda Kirtan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
At one point, you said that we're giving people the opportunity to go back to Godhead even if they just walk by the table. So I have a comment and a question. This is a comment. Okay. One time I did the math. We have 9,500 years left of the golden age of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And on average, according to the internet, Google or Wikipedia or whatever, people live an average of around 76 years. So if you divide 9,500 by 76, I forget the exact number, but I don't have a calculator or phone on me, but it's somewhere like 120 something. So basically people have like 120 something lifetimes to get it together. And so my understanding is that we're giving out books, holy names, prasadam, etc. It's like a mass agyata sukriti movement. You know, you just give out agyata sukriti as much as possible. And then when you find a right person, then obviously we try to cultivate them and make them a devotee in this life. But that mass agyata sukriti builds up, and hopefully in 120-something lifetimes, those people who get the books, hear the holy names, or even walk by the table will become full-time sadhakas. So that's my small comment. And two questions I had was, we hear this verse, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam Eva Kevalam, and chanting the holy name is the only way, it's the only way, it's the only way. It's emphasized 3 times. But then we also hear that if you just simply serve your guru, you know, you please your spiritual master, you attain all perfection. If you simply read this certain pastime, then you go back to Godhead. And so there's like certain like benedictions here and there that if you just do this, you go back to Godhead. But then what happened to this is the only way, this is the only way, this is the only way? It almost seems like, well, actually, yeah, that's the only way, but there's also another way too. So can you comment on that?
So my first thought in relation to serving the spiritual master, yeah, you can attain all perfection just by serving the spiritual master. But what's the spiritual master saying? The spiritual master is saying, chant the holy name. If your spiritual master is an actual representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which a bona fide spiritual master is, then he's going to tell you to chant the holy name. So that's my thought on that. In relation to, what was it? Serving the spiritual master.
And other benedictions. If you sing Gurvashtakam attentively in the morning, you go back to Golok Vrindavan, Krishna. Things like that appear over and over again.
Yeah, I guess I can't say I have a super good understanding of this, but one thought, and I hope it's not offensive to say this, but anyway, I'll say it. It could just be that verse, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, is not meant to be taken absolutely literally, but it's meant to be taken, not that chanting the holy name is the only way to get back to Godhead, but that it's the best way. And it's, in that sense, it's the only way, because it's the best way. You know, what qualification do we really have on our level to be constantly reciting or like really, really focusing very deeply on, you know, certain pastimes or something like that? So it's the only way in the sense that it's the only real viable way for us. That's my thought, but that's kind of a speculation, so maybe I shouldn't have said it. Jīvera Prabhu has something.
What practically happens, and we see it with the great devotees, is that they'll do all these other things. It's like you come to the morning program, it's your first day, you know, in the brahmachari ashram, and then you're chanting the Gurvashtaka prayers. You may not even know much what the Sanskrit means, you know. But what's the effect of that? It gives you enough strength, and it gives you, you know, inspiration to keep going, and you're chanting. In other words, you come in, it leads to the chanting. And if you take the chanting seriously, and you perfect it, it's all going to come back to the chanting. I don't know what's going on with this thing from here?
I think green mic volume is too high and you're too near to speaker.
Hare Krishna. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in other words, it's all going to come back to the quality of your chanting. If you're really focusing on the samsara prayers and so forth, then when you chant, then you'll be advancing. You'll be moving from namavas to the clearing stage and so forth. But ultimately, in this age, especially, the chanting has to be there in order to get the steadiness of mind and perfect it.
Yeah, that makes much more sense.
Just one more
Yeah.
question. This is kind of like some practical advice. So here, obviously, we shouldn't make aparadhs. One of the aparadhs is inattentive chanting. But sometimes I'm in a kirtan, and like with all due respect, I love all devotees. They're all amazing. Sometimes if there's a devotee leading, sometimes it's so slow, and like it's hard to get into the chanting.
Yeah.
And I'm just like spacing out, twiddling my thumbs, just waiting for it to get fired up or something. So maybe that's my own lack of taste for the holy names, my own neophyte nature. Can you comment some practical advice how to deal with that?
I mean, I have the same problem. So I guess, I mean, the only solution I can think of is that we have to encourage devotees to lead fired up kirtans. But no, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of like a really solid, like foolproof solution to that. If anybody else has some contribution they'd like to give, I guess it just okay. Vulnerable.
Well, in that short but very important, sweet book, Madhurya Kadambini Vishnu-charitamrita Thakura, he talks about, which I'm sure devotees have read, at least some of them have read it here, but says that there's two types of devotees, and one devotee is just the chanting itself, whoever it's done by, whether it's very melodious or whatever, they're attracted because they have this very high level attraction to Krishna. And then there's another devotee, and it says that he says that it kind of depends on who's chanting, or actually it depends on who's chanting. In other words, they have a hard time getting into it. It has to be, you could say, musically nice for them to get into it. But even, but going back to that other devotee, their attraction to the holy name is not based on the expertise of the kirtans. But it says that, but if they do hear a kirtan, which is they're very expert kirtan leaders, then it says that the ecstasy is enhanced. So it's an important principle for devotees to learn how to perform nice kirtan for Krishna, for the deities, and for the devotees through playing mridanga, kartal, singing, and at a particular stage, we may not be fully attracted just when we hear Krishna's name. So that should just be a impetus for us to make more and more and more progress where it doesn't depend on anything like that. We're just attracted, spontaneously, no matter who's leading the kirtan, whatever, it doesn't matter. I guess in terms of kind of practical advice, if we're hearing a kirtan and it's not so inspiring to us, well, we could just really try to focus, chant and, really listen and just try to absorb, the holy name despite who's chanting or whether we're inspired or not. Because we could always find inspiration. We should be able to always find inspiration and whoever's kirtan it is, I mean, provided they're a devotee. And also class. We should be able to find inspiration in class, not that, oh, I have to listen to, I'm only listen to the top-notch class givers, and I'm going to, stay in the brahmacharya ashram and not go to the Bhagavatam class because that guy's really boring or whatever, We should be able to find some nectar from all the devotees. So anyways, I hope it's a...
Also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, in Bengal, there's very melodious kirtaniyas. So sometimes he would have the person who had the worst voice chant, just because the importance of the holy name, not being very melodious and leading a very nice kirtan, because the name is what is most important. Of course, that's the high level.
Yeah, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, he had Sridhar Swami, who, his disciple, was a great devotee. I mean, just amazing devotee. But his voice, I mean, keeping time or in terms of melodious, he wasn't one of the main kirtan leaders in the Gaudiya month. There was other main kirtan leaders, and at one particular point, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura, someone was singing, and then he told him, "Oh, stop and have Sridhar Swami sing," because he had so much, devotion. So, anyways.
That was there when he was leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was his song Rupa Raghunath, and he asked Sridhar Swami to sing because of the purity.
Zoom?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the class.
Hare Krishna.
So in the beginning of the class, you mentioned the difference between pious activities and trying to be a devotee. How do we help people make that step when most people seem happy being just pious?
Well, so the question was, how do we get people to make that step?
How to encourage them, or...
Yeah. Well, basically it comes down to sambandha gyan, or knowledge of who we are in relation to the material world and who we are in relation to Krishna. Because if people think or have some understanding that there's happiness in this material world, or if they have some understanding that this body belongs to me and the things in relation to this body should be used for my happiness, then it'll be very difficult to get them off of the level of piety, meaning approaching Krishna or approaching whatever, the demigods or whoever, for some material benefit. So the best way is to give them the knowledge which is being presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, which throws out dharma projitakaitavotra, which throws out all forms of cheating, materialistically motivated religion. And so if they have that knowledge, if they have knowledge of who Krishna is and who they are in relation to Krishna, then it'll be very easy for them to give up this material piety, because they'll understand that it's useless. Like Dhruva Maharaj said, it's like broken, my material desires is like broken glass. So, yeah, they just have to, their knowledge of Krishna has to be awakened. And you can encourage them by giving them Srila Prabhupada's books or referring them to lectures and things like that on pure Krishna consciousness. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, it's your time to shine.
Yes, Amogha Prabhu, thank you very much. You're very kind. Dandavat pranams. Prabhu, my question is, what is the benefit of chanting a prescribed number of rounds after you become initiated, namely 16 rounds? Why is it that even after becoming initiated, the initiated devotee is not allowed to go for inventing a number of rounds in accordance with his wishes?
Well, because we're materially contaminated, our wishes are generally not for serving Krishna. So if we didn't have a prescribed number of rounds, then one could say, okay, well, even if somebody has some idea, okay, I should chant. I got to chant, I got to chant because I want to serve Krishna. So I'll chant a round today because I'm a little busy. I'll just chant one round today because I'm a little busy today. Or tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll chant more. And then, tomorrow comes, it's like, okay, I got a little more time, I'll chant 4 rounds. Or, I have no time today, so I'm, maybe I'll chant a round, but I'll chant it while I'm, doing something else. Or I'll chant it while, I don't know, whatever. So many excuses. The tendency is that the mind makes excuses to avoid devotional service. So by prescribing a set number of rounds to chant, it gets us off the mental platform. So all we're thinking is, okay, I have to follow the order of my spiritual master. He told me to chant 16 rounds. Therefore, I'm going to chant 16 rounds. And Prabhupada said we can increase if we like, but we should never decrease. So when it comes to chanting the holy name, we have to make a commitment to chant a certain number of rounds. If you want to chant, if you say, okay, from now on I'm going to chant 64 rounds, then you have to chant 64 rounds. You shouldn't fall down from that. But anyway, that's the idea. The idea is that if we give the mind a choice whether or not to engage in devotional service, it won't choose to engage in devotional service.
So,
and then Balaram Prabhu has something too.
well, does Vijay Krishna, is he said?
I think he was just going to say that my answer was brilliant.
Well, ask him if he was going to say that. What were we going to say, Vijay Krishna? Yeah, you going to say something else?
Yes, I was going, as usual, because it happened again. I was going to say, very helpful, outstanding, brilliant answer to my question.
Well, thank you, Vijay Krishna, bro.
You're most welcome.
Well, so we vow to chant 16 rounds a day, at least. And Srila Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya-charitamrita, he says, out of all the instructions of the spiritual master, the most important instruction is to chant at least 16 rounds a day. And Prabhupada explains in his purport, in that section of Chaitanya-charitamrita, he says that if one doesn't chant 16 rounds a day, then won't be able to remember Krishna. But in terms of chanting more rounds, should we vow to the spiritual master to chant more rounds? And when should we chant more rounds? When should we chant more rounds? At what stage or what time frame in our life? Or immediately, or is it individual? Or should we vow, we say, Guru Maharaj, I'm now going to chant 25 rounds a day? Or should it just be like, I'm going to chant 25 rounds like when I have extra time, but I'm not vowing exactly? What do you think about that?
I guess my initial thoughts would be that
Is there a need over time to increase? Should we be chanting 16 for 10, 15, 20, 25, 40 years, and that's good enough, or should we increase?
I think if one wanted to chant 16 rounds, I think that would be good enough, considering that's, Srila Prabhupada gave it to us, as the means for going back home, back to Godhead. So I would say, 16 rounds is good enough. But if one wants to increase, and I guess you could say if one's making progress, then they should want to increase, then, I think it can go either way. I think if you say, because the thing is, different devotees, like especially if you're preaching, just on a practical level, devotees' schedules are like different every day. It's not that so you could just say, okay, well, my vow is to chant 16 rounds, and then whenever I have extra time, whenever I have free time, then I'll use that for chanting more. Or if somebody wanted to, they could also make a vow, from now on I'm going to chant 25 rounds. I think either way is okay. I don't think that, because you're still fulfilling your vow. As long as you can keep the vow to chant more.
Well, it says, because sometimes if we just say, when I have free time, I'll do it, then there's a tendency like, all right, I have free time, but I'm going to do something else.
Yeah.
Whereas if you actually make the vow and you say, oh, I have free time, or not, whether I have free time or not,
Yeah.
I'm going to make time. I'm going to sleep less, or I'm going to whatever.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do this or that because I got to complete it. It's no option.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing about giving the mind a little, what do you call, leeway. So anyways, that's there too.
Yeah. I mean, if one wanted to seriously increase their chanting, then I think you could start out that way, that whenever I have extra time, I'll chant more. And then eventually, if, just seeing what, you could just try, my vow is to chant 16, but I'm going to try to chant 25, something like that. I don't know. And then, I'll see when I have time, but my vow is still 16. And then if, eventually if one, if it becomes clear that, okay, this is feasible, then yeah, you can make a vow. I guess that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.